Are the Simpsons warning us about an AI future we can't escape? For decades, The Simpsons has left fans wondering how a simple cartoon could predict the future with such uncanny accuracy. But as technology rapidly advances, one eerie question arises. Is The Simpsons now hinting at an artificial intelligence takeover? In this episode, we'll explore the hidden messages and storylines that may reveal the rise of AI and its impact on our world. Let's dive into what The Simpsons might be warning us about before it's too late. Hello, everybody. Welcome back, and welcome if this is your first time here. We're going to jump right into the very first question here, which is, how do The Simpsons show humanity underestimating the power of AI, artificial intelligence? So let's see what the cards are going to share with us today. Starting out with the first card is Hidalgo. And if you've been watching these episodes, you know that card's come out more than once. Okay. Card number 2. Ooh. All right, we have Ball of Confusion. And we have, for card number 3, and if you're new here, we always start with Oracle and then we move on to Tarot to get even more information for each question. We have Contact. And last pile, we have the Money Pit. Okay. How do the Simpsons show humanity underestimating the power of AI? So with Hidalgo, great card for this particular question, because if you've seen the movie Hidalgo, you know it is about a paint horse who is a wild paint horse, but allows this man here to ride him and be friends. This man never takes this horse for granted, in that thinking that he owns the horse. He does not own the horse, and he knows it. This is a kind of a Native American based honor situation. At any rate, this horse and rider are invited to Saudi Arabia to race across the desert with thoroughbreds, and they make fun of Hidalgo and his horse because they think the horse is just, they underestimate him big time. They just think he's, a pretty little horse, but doesn't have the stamina, doesn't have what it takes to win this race or get across the desert in any way, shape, or form. So yes, they underestimate this little horse. So when it asks, how do the Simpsons show humanity underestimating the power of AI? This is showing us that we are underestimating. So that's a great card for this. Okay, so the Ball of Confusion. That's not all that difficult, because there's a lot of misleading information out there, and everything that we see about AI, from not necessarily those who want to bring AI into the future, more so like into the homes and stuff like that. They're not giving AI a bad rap at all. It's people who perhaps are not underestimating the possibilities of what might happen, what could happen. So, for some people, this is very confusing. You've got the companies saying, oh, this is a great new thing, technology's growing. And then on the other hand, you've got people going, look, they're going to take jobs. look at movies like iRobot and so forth as to what can possibly happen. So it is a ball of confusion here as to what power do they actually have. The big issue previous to AI had to do with aliens, ET contact. Just meeting aliens for the first time, first contact with them, that kind of thing. And when they want to take, I'm going to say, when the powers that be want to take focus off of AI, they bring this back up again, and vice versa, obviously, because they know what to use to make humans afraid. Now we've got the money pit here, and I think for some, they're going to, it might be such a thing as most people are going to think that the AI are either too expensive or they are going to break down all the time, always needing some kind of electricity. So if you've ever seen the movie, well, iRobot, they plug in, they have to plug in. And let's say electricity costs quite a bit of money. Okay, so you've got this AI that's supposed to save you time doing your housework and things like that, but then they're nickel diming you to death on like electricity because they have to plug in and, stay charged or get recharged. And if, they powers that be hike the electricity costs, well, that's beneficial for them then, isn't it? So possible money pit there. So let's see what else. We have Patch Adams. We have I Heard It Through the Grapevine. And we have The Prize. Okay, so with Patch Adams, none of what is given here, none of what these concerns are a laughable matter by any stretch of the imagination. Some people might literally laugh about, being worried about, what it's going to cost to have one and whether or not they're going to, do something bad to us or take over our medical. There's so many different things. AI is capable of a lot of things. Much of what we know right now, what we get for information is through the grapevine. Unless you're actually creating an AI robot of your own, then you're hearing everything through the grapevine, or you're very close to somebody who, does that kind of work. We're hearing it all through the grapevine, and a lot of times what we hear through the grapevine is not truth. Not truth. They're hidden truths or deception, or, we're blindsided with something we didn't expect. And with The Prize, it's all about being the best in the field, okay? It's going to be kind of like this movie is about a Nobel Prize winner who gets involved in the Cold War and has to help find another Nobel Prize winner who has been kidnapped. So there's going to be some major competition with all of the AI stuff that is going on. You're going to have companies that are going to be battling in pretty crazy ways to sell their AI products, okay? So I don't think the Simpsons show actually offers an explanation in the show of how humanity is understanding or underestimating the power of AI. It is just saying that we are, okay? We are underestimating it. In the show, they let things happen, such as robots taking over all the jobs and things like that. They let that happen, but they also then see what happens to their existence because of it. And when the robots break down, things happen. And so sometimes, yes, it could be a money pit. Not a good thing to do. Sometimes it can be very confusing when, there's different job takeovers and the AI do the job, but the people, there's the human aspect to it. If they take over medical, okay, to some degree, the knowledge that they can carry about things is one thing. But do you want an AI doing your surgery kind of thing? So anyway, don't believe everything you hear, but don't disregard everything you hear either. Consider the possibilities and realize that, this is going to be, one of the biggest battles in history with companies that are creating AI, because there's always going to be some kind of competition in this, and, maybe not in the healthiest way. So let's see if we can get a little bit more through tarot here. I feel like the cards are giving us good information, especially with the Hidalgo. I mean, that was kind of like the answer right there. Yes, we're underestimating. All right, so we have the Five of Pentacles. And, with the Hidalgo card and the underestimation here of that paint horse, the Five of Pentacles is saying it's going to make things in the physical world very, very chaotic. Things that we just take for granted, for instance, if you're a fast food eater, and you pull up to, say, one of the fast food places and you try to order and you're ordering with an AI. Well, there's that human aspect, and it's going to be uncomfortable for some for a while, and really quite exciting for other people. And then for Ball of Confusion, we've got the Knight of Pentacles. And the Knight of Pentacles is an action card, action in the real world, such as, giving misleading information. That's an action. And, causing chaos, causing corruption, avoiding responsibility, and, just having an awareness. And it's also another action card. Ball of Confusion is about action. So we're getting a double dose here of just basically action-oriented stuff. Action-oriented situations that involved anything in, the human realm, the health, the money, the work, etc. It's going to create a lot of confusion that way. Three of Cups with contact. The powers that be are working together, obviously, to make sure that they're switching back and forth from, AI to ET to ET to AI, and anything else that they want to switch our attention back and forth to. They're using it. Knight of Cups with the Money Pit. It's an emotional response. If we're taking the action of having to pay extra bills after we purchase an AI, higher electric costs and stuff like that, and it's not something that we're expecting, it's going to hit us. It's going to hit the emotional level and can cause some pretty not good responses, I guess. So, as we keep going here, it's like, how do the Simpsons show humanity underestimating the power of AI? They give their shows concerning AI, and I don't think I've really seen too awful many of them myself. I do remember the one where Homer was in the nuclear plant and they were running things, and things were not going well because the robots broke down. There's also been one, I think, where the AI went after the Simpson family. It's been a while. Anyway, those shows do show how we are underestimating or could be underestimating things. The Ball of Confusion, the extra costs, and, if they're talking medical here. So, Six of Swords is with Patch Adams. Six of Swords for me is a harmony card or peace of mind. It is giving your mind a rest, laughing it off a little bit. So in other words, I think what they're saying here is right now, there's nothing we can do. Things are happening, but they're not a reality yet. In other words, there is not an AI in every home, unless you want to talk about Siri. I think I don't have one. So for those people that do, you might have that helper that you can ask questions of. But that can be a humorous situation. Right now, they're just saying, keep an open mind and a sense of humor. Don't get all wrought up in this ball of confusion. Three of Pentacles. This is that what you hear through the grapevine is growth. Things are growing. The AI technology is growing, whether we like it or not. So what you hear with that, definitely believable. And then the prize has the Tower. So too much competition, too much of anything is going to make things collapse. So we are either going to have a really good experience with AI or we're going to have a bad experience. It just depends on, I guess, who's in charge, who really wants to, if what they want to do is help humanity for real, it might be a good experience. But I heard it through the grapevine. That's probably not the case. So this was kind of a roundabout way for information to come through. They did answer the question right off the bat, but then gave a bunch of extra information about AI and, what is possible with it. So let's get this cleaned up and go on to question 2. You never know what's going to come out of these cards. And sometimes it isn't always that easy to figure out. All right, so question 2. What hidden warning about the AI are the Simpsons delivering through their episodes? And remember, I can kind of remember 2 of the episodes, and I know that there's some place on YouTube that actually does show some of the AI cartoon bits and pieces for specifically AI episodes. So we have first is transformation. And again, what hidden warning about AI are the Simpsons delivering through their episodes? I'm repeating that for you and for the cards here. Okay. We have Groundhog Day. Oop. And the third card. Come on down. All right, we have Bound. Okay, Man Trap. All right, so with transformation, they're obviously telling us here that things are going to change, okay? And what comes out of the egg or the chrysalis or the womb, okay? Any way something is born, okay? It's a transformation. And depending on what kind of creatures you like, I mean, it's always really awesome to see puppies come out. It's maybe not so much of a happy thing to see snakes hatch for some people. So it isn't always, a butterfly, but a transformation is happening where AI is concerned. Groundhog Day, I think they're telling us that, this is nothing new. Technology rolls out pretty regularly, and sometimes it's good technology, sometimes it's not. When they talk about like the A-bomb Was that a good thing or a bad thing? They rolled it out. And so we never know with technology if it's going to repeat something as horrible as a bomb or something like that. So they're just telling us be prepared. And with bound, okay, this is usually a past card. And I feel like this one's telling us that we might feel like we're bound for something bad, okay? But maybe not. We just never know. Or that maybe we're bound to following along with what humanity is doing. I mean, if everybody has an AI, do you have to have an AI? Do you feel bound to that? And, if it was kind of the same thing with various illnesses, okay? If a particular illness had what might have been termed a fix, did you want to do it or did you not want to do it? Are you bound to do it? Okay? There's people who are yes people and people who are no people. All right, and with man trap, I think this is exactly what it says. I think it may very well be a man trap, the AI. And again, because in the one episode that's very clear where they hired all of the AI robots to run the nuclear power plant, okay? Man kind of lost out there, or, the Homer town, Springfield, kind of lost out there because people lost their jobs to these AI. So that was one of the warnings in there. Also here, if you think about it, if we're looking at it from the standpoint of what hidden warnings, well, every day would be pretty much the same for us, because if we don't have housework to do and we don't have, we would find another routine that we would follow. So every day would be the same. Are we bound to that? So let's keep going. What dreams may come. Sleepy Hollow. And vertigo. Some people might dream of having an AI robot help them with everything. That's factual. But that's part of the man trap. It's like, as it stands right now, we have mobile phones that people pay more attention to than the people sitting next to them. I've seen my own kids, when they still lived at home, sitting next to their friend on the couch, and they're texting each other rather than talking. So whatever dreams people have about certain kinds of AI, it might be more of a nightmare, as the woman in What Dreams May Come was living through before she was rescued after she had passed away. It was a nightmare. It wasn't at all a pleasant experience. Sleepy Hollow is not a pleasant experience either. It is the lopping off of heads by the Headless Horseman. And I think they're also warning us a bit about the speed in which things are happening. Okay? Because, that can make you dizzy. Things are happening so fast, changing so quickly. It can actually make you dizzy. So what hidden warnings about AI are the Simpsons delivering through their episodes? I think they're saying, whether we like it or not, it's coming. But it is a man trap. And it can be definitely a nightmare. Create a life that is very repetitive and boring and that just doesn't have a whole lot in it. And maybe eventually they will get dangerous. It says heads will roll. There was the episode where they were attacking the people. So they're giving us warnings like that. Does that mean that that's how it's going to be? No, but it's asking about Simpsons in the episode, so giving what the cards have. So let's see what the tarot has to add to this. And by the way, this was supernatural. Not sure where that fits, but keep that in mind. So we have Page of Swords here. It's a learning situation. This is like the ultimate student here, okay? A learning situation. This transformation, we're going to have to learn to work with it. And then we have the Five of Pentacles again. So for the purpose of mankind in general, with the Five of Pentacles, this Groundhog Day, this repetitive life that we will eventually, or could eventually end up in, okay, is really not good for humanity. Humanity is supposed to be very creative, and you would think that this would give more time for creativity, but let's say you're painting and you have an AI that cleans your house and you're right in the middle of your project, and then they come to clean when you don't really want them there. And you don't want them to clean up what you're doing because, so anything could be, a possibility. Then we have the High Priestess, and these are the secrets. We don't know in the past how we were bound to things, how things affect us. It's going to affect people differently. It's going to be an absolute mystery as to what goes on, what happens. We have the Star. And for me, the Star card is guidance. It's our spirit guides, our angels. The card itself is a card of hope. Okay, so we can also use that we have some protection with our guides and our angels and things like that. But with Man Trap, this very well could be, we're hoping that's not the case. We're hoping it's going to be a good dream. The Magician, but that's where the Magician comes in, because there's a lot of trickery and illusion with a magician, right? It can be a good card, but it can also be a not so good card. So we're looking at either a nightmare or a good dream, and we're looking at illusion and trickery versus powerful manifestation, powerful from us. In other words, we create what we want, not what they want to put out there. And then we have the Eight of Wands, which is fast movement. And for sure, fast movement, they're putting things out there so fast, we're getting dizzy. And then we have King of Cups. Oh yeah, it's hitting emotionally quite strongly. The idea of having artificial intelligence walking around is, for some, very upsetting just thinking about it. They have AI dogs already that I wouldn't want to come up against one, right? That would be a nightmare for sure. So Simpsons shows are definitely giving us warnings about what can happen, or, the possibility of. And it could very well be possible that if you've watched episodes 1, 2, and 3, you'll know that the Simpsons get a lot of the writers get a lot of their information from an alternate reality and some time travel that the Gladiator does. So certain things have happened where AI is concerned in that other alternate reality that have not happened here yet. So some of the information, some of the warnings that are given in the shows are things that have happened elsewhere. So if you haven't watched those episodes, it's a great way to start before you get into this, because I do reference back quite often. All right, so let us go to question 3 here. What futuristic AI chaos hinted at in The Simpsons could become a reality? And this almost seems like a repeat question, but let's just see what the cards have to share. Could give us something totally different. All right, so we have circle of life. Sometimes I feel like with new things, could be such a thing as anything can happen. Anything that could go wrong can go wrong. Anything good could happen, but is usually overshadowed by the things that go wrong. So that card there is in the Navy. And we have Terror at Midnight. No feeling. Okay, so with the circle of life here, first of all, I think when they say what futuristic AI chaos hinted at in The Simpsons could become a reality, I think in this case it's seeing the simple things in life go away and not really understanding how replacing those can cause some pretty crazy situations. Eventually, I think things circle back around, but for the time being. And then in the Navy, I think is talking about having I think in some of the shows, they've actually had military come in to try and help with the situation, and they didn't do very well. It is Terror at Midnight. It's something that maybe people think about. Okay, well, what happens if this AI decides to take me out in the middle of the night? That's terror for some people, because they know that these robots, this AI, they don't have feelings. They're cold. Their heart, if they have a heart, it's not a human heart, and it doesn't have the emotion. And for them, if a child falls down and gets hurt and they're in care of that child, they'll pick the child up, they'll do what has to be done, but really there's no feeling to it. They don't understand that, oh, it hurts. And they don't understand why a child is crying or something like that. And the response can be, stop crying, I'll fix it, go play. And then we have Bus Stop, Stepford Wives, and Men in Black. Okay, so with Bus Stop, I think this is just a card that says, maybe stopping would be a good idea. Because the Stepford Wives, something strange is happening in the town of Stepford. Okay? And it says when the men spend their nights doing something secret, and every woman acts like every man's dream of the perfect wife, where a young woman watches the dream become a nightmare and sees the nightmare engulf her best friend and realizes that any moment, any second, her turn is coming. So she's watching everybody turn into a robot and having certain parts replaced and things like that. Say, your heart, having an artificial heart, having artificial limbs, it's good for the people who need them, obviously. But if you remember the movie Bicentennial Man, that artificial AI was striving to be human. And while he was striving to be human, the humans were getting all different body parts replaced. And I remember the woman in the show saying, I don't want to have anything more replaced, no more organs. I just want to pass naturally and normally. So there may even be a show, and I'm not sure about this, can't remember all of the episodes, but there may even be a show about this specifically, where these artificial bits and pieces can be can become a part of our medical care, which is good to a point. But when it changes the natural cycle of things, maybe not so good if it goes on for too long. And then we have the Men in Black. And that movie those movies are all about the unseen things that people really don't want to admit to, or really want to know, or really want to see. And I think some of the episodes are sharing, that kind of information too, is that humans oftentimes would rather remain blind, put those shades on and just not see a thing. So let's see what Tarot has to share for this question. We have King of Pentacles. That's a great card here because it is wanting us to realize that we're supposed to be in charge of our lives. We're supposed to create our lives the way we would like them to be, to make the money how we make the money, to eat the foods that we want to eat, to grow the foods that we wish to grow, to expand upon life, to travel where we wish to travel, to see what we want to see. In other words, we are meant to be in charge of how we live. And when all of the old things go away for technology, it is very difficult to do that. We're not really honoring past generations. We're not really respecting nature either because, and we've got, the deer in this, not really respecting nature either as technology takes over more and more and more. And within the Navy, we have the Ace of Wands. This is the energy that was needed. They definitely, in the show, needed this kind of energy, this kind of power. But anything, they're saying, is possible. Anything could become a reality. Any energy. I mean, this is a card about energy. Anything can happen. The potential of it is, it's unlimited. And there we are with Terror at Midnight again. And the Magician, as we talked about before, this is, it's trickery. It may not be as innocent as it appears. Appears very docile and sweet and friendly. What happens after midnight? Think about Gremlins, the movie Gremlins. Anyway, so we've got no feeling. We've got Knight of Swords here. Yeah, everything is logic. They act on logic, literally, and no feeling whatsoever. And with Bus Stop, we have 10 of Cups. I think this card was a little confusing here, but I think what it's saying is we have to stop some of it to some degree because the future chaos that we might actually be seeing is no more connection. That connection stops. 10 of Cups is all about emotion and feeling, but humans tend to mirror what they are around. So eventually they might look at, an AI and say, wow, it's probably better not to feel. Scary thought, right? All right, so then we have the 3 of Cups. And there's a lot of people working on this. It's definitely a group effort. 3 of Pentacles. Things are going to grow physically, whether people pay attention to them or not. Things are going to change in our material world, whether people want to see them or not. And if things are meant to change, like here, things are meant to change, they're going to change. But there are two sides to the coin for sure. I mean, they're hinting at AI not necessarily being the greatest thing at all, hinting at it being in our medical. They're hinting at the fact that there's no emotion. hinting at the fact that they could be dangerous in several areas here. So anyway, it's something for you to take with a grain of salt here and see, where your own thoughts and beliefs take you with this. So let us continue on here with question number 4. There's 6 questions in this one. All right. So question number 4. What ultimate fear about AI do the Simpsons storylines reveal? The ultimate fear. What do they believe, or what has been proven in the alternate realities even, to be true about the ultimate fear concerning AI? We have The Giver. Good movie, by the way. We have Jaws. Stay there. Yeah, we don't take jumpers. I could, but it changes the flow of the cards for me. Okay. Good News. I must be extra sloped today. I want to go downhill. Die Hard. All right, so question again. What ultimate fear about AI do the Simpsons storylines reveal? And as we've talked about in other episodes, everything that the writers get through their time travel, through the alternate realities, and whatever other ways that they get information for the Simpsons predictions for the show itself, they don't always put everything out there, okay? It just depends on when, whether or not the information is popular at the time, because obviously they want their information to be seen in the show. If it's trending, that's even better, okay? So where the AI is concerned and, the ultimate fear about AI, we have The Giver here. And one of the things that they show you in the show is about control, not having control, not being free to choose. And obviously that has definitely happened in the 2 episodes that I can think of at the moment off the top of my head. There is no control. They didn't have control over their jobs. They didn't have control over the AI that were attacking. With Jaws, going hand in hand, these aren't separate concepts here. Not at all. Going hand in hand, they're afraid that, these AI will turn vicious. And, with Good News, that's a pass card. So in the past of these people, whoever they're talking about with the Simpsons storylines, they at first thought, oh, great news, the AI are rolling out. We're going to get our chance to have one in our home, and that's a thing of the past. Now, it's about control. It's about being in a really dangerous situation and having no control over that. And same thing here, Die Hard. It's not going to be easy to get rid of them, is a fear. Then we have Pushover, The Fifth Dimension, and They Live. So Pushover here, kind of going hand in hand with all of this, it's the fear of the fact that they can literally take over. They're stronger than we are. They have the logical mind. They don't have the emotions. they look at us, or will, look at us as pushovers, that they can just do that. The difference between them and us is that we have a soul. As we see with the fifth dimension, we have a soul. They don't like that. Or eventually, again, we're looking at ultimate fear, is that, they don't have a soul. So they, to some extent, I think, eventually will figure out that, hey, having a soul could destroy us. So we need to do that first. So the ultimate fear, I think, is that they will eventually destroy humanity. So let us see what tarot has to say. With the Giver, we have the Seven of Swords. And the Seven of Swords is a card about not having enough information about something. We don't at this point. I mean, this is, the ultimate fear from a cartoon, and that comes from an alternate reality that has already experienced this, or from time travel that has, places that have already experienced this. We don't know that that's how it's going to go. We don't know or have enough information yet. Then we have the Six of Pentacles. This is showing pretty much the opposite of Jaws. It could be a terrifying situation, or it could be ever so harmonious. They could be serving us tea and be ever so kind and ever so sweet. Then we have the Five of Wands with the good news. The good news is like everybody's excited. At least that was what it was like in the past. And here it's, the competition of moving everybody around on a chessboard. That's maybe not the way it's supposed to be. Maybe it is good news. Then we have the Three of Wands. The plan is to build them as strong as possible, so they do die hard. Maybe that's a good thing instead of a bad thing, so they don't break down as easily and it doesn't cost as much to fix them. Here we have the Seven of Wands with the pushover. We're not pushovers. We know how to defend ourselves if we need to. Sure we do. But again, if they are built super strong and hard to get rid of, that can turn things around again to the fear, the ultimate fear. And with the Eight of Pentacles, we have a soul, and that could be something that they would be working on. Is they may never be able to have a soul, but they can kind of paint themselves a soul. Keep working hard at being more feeling, figuring out what it means. Kind of like Data in Star Trek Next Generation. He strives to be human. He wants to know what it's like to feel this or to feel that. Kind of that. And then they live, we've got the Queen of Wands. They could end up being very nurturing and loving people instead of somebody that wants to get rid of us. So we don't have enough information. We really don't. We know what someone is telling us, what other people are thinking. We don't have enough information to really know. Nothing to compare anything to. So the ultimate fear is they're going to destroy humanity. But it may not be that way at all. All right, so let's clean that up and go on to question 5. And I'm not sure if there are any Simpsons shows about the AI that are good ones, meaning that they show something good. I can't remember. If you remember that, put in the comments. Also, if you're enjoying this content, please feel free to hit that like button and to subscribe if you want to see more of these shows. All right, so let's go on to number 5 question. It says, according to The Simpsons, how can humor, creativity, or the human spirit outwit AI? Okay. We have offer. We have the giver again. Dr. X. All right, and Eye of the Tiger. Okay, so reiterating the question, according to The Simpsons, how can humor, creativity, or the human spirit outwit AI? Offer's a little confusing at the moment. An offer is something that you can accept or not accept. Okay, so perhaps that's part of this, is that we have choices. We can make choices. Whereas if you think about AI, they are programmed to do specific things. They, I suppose, could make a choice, but that's not how they're programmed. Okay? With the giver, the creativity in their way of thinking in this show is what allowed them to get away from the system that they were living in. If they didn't have that ability to think as they do, then they would have never known the difference. They would have never experimented with anything to find out, what would happen if they didn't do what they were told and things like that. So being able to think for ourselves is a huge thing. So choice and thinking for ourselves. Dr. X is a thing of the past. And, I almost think this is like a mental thing. We don't have to have ourselves examined, because as humans, we are wonderful people. I mean, it is being a human. We have a soul. We have feelings. There's so many things. We don't need a doctor for that. We don't need that programmed into us. Things are programmed into us. We are kind of like computers in a way, because we form our belief systems as we grow, but they aren't programmed into us, so to speak. And then we have Eye of the Tiger. This allows us, again, we've got choice and we have creativity and thinking, being able to be both logical and emotional, and not letting anybody tell us, it used to be that people, or that we could be told there was something wrong with us. That's a thing of the past. There's nothing wrong with being human. And with Eye of the Tiger, we are also survivors. Okay? So that's part of the human spirit. We will defy the odds one way or another. We will do that. Defy the odds. Gladiator. Now You See Me. And Black Water. Okay, so with Gladiator, I think this is actually talking about the movie itself, with how can humor, creativity, or the human spirit outwit AI? AI could write a fantastic script, but could they act it? I mean, could they really be convincing actors? Probably not, because they don't have the emotion that is required to emote the way that Russell Crowe had to in the movie Gladiator. And then Now You See Me, the ingenuity that took place in this movie as magicians was incredible. Could AI pull something like that off? If you haven't seen that movie, it's really good. And then you've got Black Water. And again, this is about, well, pretty much the soul. It's a timelessness of humans. We have all these things that AI will never have. It is what makes us human, and there is nothing wrong with us. We have choices. We have creative thought, creative thinking that can get us out of situations that we don't want to be in. We're survivors. We can be great actors if we want to be. Well, all the world is a stage, right? We know how to emote. We have feelings. That's huge too. The feelings, all of these things can and will, if it ever comes down to it. That is how we will win against AI if we would have to. So there's always something that, a vulnerability in a machine. All right, let's see what Tarot has to say. So, Judgment. We don't have to do something unless we feel called to do it. Ten of Wands. Powerful energy. We have powerful energy. That's our brain and our humor and our creativity to get where we need to go and do what we need to do. Then we have the Ace of Cups. Yeah, our emotions are a blessing, an absolute blessing. We don't need a doctor for those. Death, it's the transformation. We're survivors, and if you don't feel that way, it's time to transform, because we're strong. Humans are strong. And then we have the High Priestess. Yes, this is our secret. We can emote. We can be creative. The AI can write a movie. Notice we've got curtains here as though she's coming from behind the curtains, and we've got him acting. You know, we can emote and be convincing, where they can write the show, but they can't act it. And then we have the Star with Now You See Me. Again, this is the magic that we can actually create, what we can do, all the creativity that's possible to be convincing. And we also have spirit guides, we have angels, we have a whole slew of a team behind the veil that is helping each and every one of us. Don't believe that the AI have that. And with the Nine of Cups, we've got with Black Water. Black Water is about the soul. We have a soul. We have wishes. We have dreams. We have hopes. I don't believe that's something that AI has either. All of these things are what set us apart from AI and would allow us to eventually outwit them if necessary. Now, don't get me wrong, some of this stuff can also be to our detriment, depending on how over the top we go, how fearful we can be. I mean, that's something that AI doesn't have, is fear. At least not that we're aware. At least not yet. So, but for the most part, all the powerful, positive things that we have, AI will never, ever have. Especially the soul. All right, so now we're moving on to the very last question here. What unexpected AI twist predicted by The Simpsons might catch us all off guard? Now again, if you've seen every Simpsons show and you have them memorized or anything, I do not. So I'm only being able to read what's on the cards. So we have Circle of Life again in the same position. And we have Bound again. If you've been hearing some snoring in the background, I do apologize. It is my Chihuahua who is much enjoying being in my room with me while I do my reading. Okay, and we have Love Me or Leave Me. Sometimes the lights in here are quite glary on these cards, but then we have Cat People. All right, so according to this, or what unexpected AI twist predicted by the Simpsons might catch us all off guard? We start out with the Circle of Life, and I almost feel like this is saying that things are going to circle around. We might go into the AI and, more technology, but I think eventually it's all going to come back to the basics. The birth, the growth, the death, the normal way of doing things, and, honoring our past generations and how they survived in this world. I think it's going to come back to the more natural way of being. And with Bound, we might eventually realize what a bind we've gotten ourselves into by moving so fast with technology. And there's going to be some that, it's going to be a love me or leave me kind of thing. Some people will be happy to see things come to an end, and other people that love technology, it will devastate them, really devastate them. But I think for the most part, most people are going to see the technology, the AI, as a curse that should have never been brought into the light. Here's the Stepford Wives again. Here's Signs. And Westworld. Boy, you can't make this up. You just can't. Pulling these cards randomly, it always blows my mind, okay? Stepford Wives, again, some people are going to look at it as a curse and want to eliminate all of the AI, all of the technology to come back to special living. And I think it'll happen in small groups of people, slow but sure. Ones who realize what a bind we've gotten ourselves into, ones who really have never been in love with technology to that degree, they're going to want to get rid of what's happening. And we're going to see the signs when things have gotten too out of hand, when technology has gotten too out of hand. We're going to be given signs of that. And Westworld is, one of those cards. It's a movie about, well, it says on here, when robot men and women are programmed to serve you for romance, violence, anything. Okay? This is saying technology is going to take over. It's kind of inevitable. But then we will go back to the circle of life. And again, maybe in slow groups, There's going to be those who are going to be saying, I told you so, I told you so, but it doesn't matter what they say. It's going to come to a natural end, I think. I believe that's, what people think happened to Atlantis. They became too technical and things just didn't go well. So let's go on to tarot, see what more information we have. 8 of Pentacles. And I love this card simply because it is a card of mastery. She is painting on all these butterflies, but she has a lot of butterflies she has to paint on. It is a work in progress. So is life. Life is a work in progress, and it's meant to be created out of beauty, out of love. And that's kind of where our ancestors were at. Growing your own food. It was devastating when, locusts came and ate your entire crop. That was what you had to survive on. We have a little more to work with than they did now, but still, it's the beauty of how life works. And with the 4 of Pentacles, there's going to be those who decide they don't want this anymore, that they don't want to be bound by this. Ace of Wands. Yeah, the energy can go both ways. You're going to have people who, are really loving, have so much passion for the technology, never want it to end. And you're going to have kind of equal passion from those who want it to go away. 3 of Cups. Here's the curse. And things that should have never been brought into the light. It's emotional growth. People are starting to really notice. The emotions are going to start really coming forth with people realizing that, technology isn't all that good for them after all. And 4 of Swords. Death. It's another death card. And, there's people who look at what she looks like. She's all in pieces. And then we have Signs, which is Queen of Pentacles, which for me is another card for a spirit guide for each and every individual on earth. It's somebody unseen who cares for us and nurtures us, guides us. Just as these signs are going to show us that, things are getting out of hand. And here we have the 9 of Cups with Westworld. 9 of Cups is a wish card. 9 of Cups is also kind of close to a completion of our emotions. Like we don't need them anymore. Westworld, they don't need emotions. And, it's one of those things that eventually the moral situation will be some humans might just really want to be just like the AI because they don't feel. And life is painful. It's beautiful, but it's painful. So when it says, what unexpected AI twist predicted by the Simpsons might catch us all off guard, it's people turning away from technology. You wouldn't think you'd want to. You wouldn't think right now that you'd ever want to give up your mobile phone. There's so many things that you might think right now is absolutely wonderful. But eventually it's going to come back to the way life was meant to be for humans. So that is this episode 8 here of The Simpsons. Each week we have an episode of The Simpsons. We have an episode that is Fringe inspired, and we have an episode that is Twilight Zone inspired. And I've put the I've put the schedule up on the screen for you if you're interested in seeing any of those. We're almost done with The Simpsons. We're almost done with Fringe. Twilight Zone will go on for quite some time each week. All right, so I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next week. Hope you have a great one. Take care.